Hello, my fellow preppers and patriots. What is up? It is Lane here. Today I'm interviewing Mark Goodwin from Prepper Recon. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Lane. First, let me say it's an honor to be on your show. It's a great pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invitation. I woke up to the need to prepare right after the 2008 financial crisis. When that blew up, it really got me thinking about what a fragile system we live in. And I think probably the most concerning thing about that was that I didn't really understand what was happening. And I think that scared me more than anything. After the 9/11 attacks, it was kind of cut and dry what was going on with that. We were being attacked or whatever, and a hurricane or those types of events, we sort of understand what's going on there. But with the financial collapse, I really didn't understand that. And I realized that through college, through high school, you don't really get a lot of financial education. And whether that's by design or just a flaw of the educational system, that's kind of how it is. So I had to get out there and dig around and get that information for myself. And as I started digging around and learning a little bit more about it and figuring out how our financial system works, the more I understood that we're just living in a complete house of cards. And that motivated me to start learning more about preparedness.
Okay. What were you like in school?
In school, I was not very focused. I was kind of a daydreamer, which I guess now that I'm a writer, I guess that was a good thing. But not knowing that I was going to be a writer, being a daydreamer wasn't really necessarily a good thing in school. So, and then there was nobody in my life that really had the foresight to say, hey, you need to just kind of run with that daydreaming thing and see if you can, make that work for you. It was always, quit daydreaming, so I think that it's important for, especially folks your age that are in school, we're all so individual and all so different. And I think it's a great thing to try to embrace that and find what your niche is and find out what it is that makes you tick and what you're going to enjoy doing. Because if you try to put that square peg in a round hole, it's just not going to fit. And the square peg's never really going to be a good round peg. So it really just needs to find a square hole.
What made you want to make a podcast?
I think that part of it was I wanted to reach out and I wanted to be able to access people that knew a lot about preparedness and survival and those types of things, and I wanted to get that education to the fullest extent possible. And I thought, well, if I had a podcast, that would give me that access to those types of people, and I'd be able to talk to them. I'd be able to pick their brain. And at the same time that I'm getting that education, I would be able to pass it along to others as well. And so that's really been a huge part of my prepping educational process, is having the podcast. So that's just been, it's really been great. And it's really given me access to people that know so much about so many different fields of preparedness and economics and the different challenges and threats that we're going to be facing in the future.
Okay. What made you want to become an author, and how can people find your books?
Well, I had read some of James Rawls' stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And after the 2008 financial collapse, I started thinking about a lot of that stuff, and this sort of storyline just started building in my mind about an economic collapse and how some folks might have to get through that. And I thought, well, maybe someday I'll write a book, but it was never really on my radar, something that I was really going to pursue. Then one Sunday, I'm sitting in church, and the pastor says, there's somebody out there that's got this book rolling around in their head, and they need to go home and write it. And my wife and I, we look at each other, and I'm thinking, this couldn't be for me. There's like 3,500 people. It's like it was a mega church, so there's a lot of other people in the sanctuary that day, and we're looking around, and I'm thinking this is probably a message for somebody else, not for me. But I thought, just in case, I'm going to go home and write this book. Well, that book just kind of took off, and I did 2 more in the economic collapse series, and then I wrote another series called The Days of Noah. And they've all done fairly well. So retrospectively, I'm going to have to say that that was probably actually a message for me. So, don't discount those kind of things from the Holy Spirit when you're sitting in church and the pastor has a word of knowledge for somebody out there. It might be for you.
How can people find your books?
Well, they can go to prepperrecon.com, and I've got links to most all of them on the sidebars of prepperrecon.com.
And the link will be in the description below for everybody watching my video. How did you start your podcast?
Well, I guess it was probably 2013, early 2013, or late 2012 maybe, I started Prepper Recon, and I started it out as a blog. And then in the spring of 2013, I said, you know what, I want to just kick this up and turn it into a podcast, because I really like that format. I like listening to stuff more, even for books. I like listening to books more than I like reading books. I'm just kind of an audible learner. And even as I'm writing my books, it's sort of playing in my head as an audiobook. So it's always very important to me to get all of my books out in audiobook format. And Kevin Pierce, the guy that reads my audiobooks, he does a really, really great job. He's got that kind of storyteller voice. And so it's almost like I'm hearing this audiobook playing in my head when I'm writing my books even. So I really like the podcast format myself. That's really how I absorb information. I love listening to other people's podcasts. I'm a big fan of Radio Free Readout, of course. I've listened to some of the survival podcasts. I listen to that from time to time. I'm a big fan of True News, which puts out a daily audio podcast for news with sort of a prophetic bent to it. So that's really what I like. So that's really what I wanted to produce as well.
What advice can you give to an aspiring podcaster?
I think just keep doing what you're doing. I think it's a good thing if you can try to get a regular schedule. So, if it's, and I would say start with something reasonable, whether it's, if you can do one a week, I think that's a great target goal. I see a lot of people, they try to do too much. And, and people that try to do something like, 5 shows a week or something like that, it's a lot, takes a whole lot of dedication. And I think it's better to start out with 1 a week and give people something that they can depend on, that, whether it's every Monday or every Friday or every Wednesday or whatever it happens to be, that they're always going to be able to go there and find a show, about the same time every week. And I think that's great. And from there, great questions, great guests, and great topics. And I think that's just a good formula.
What advice can you give to an aspiring author?
Aspiring authors. Wow. You have to make sure that people, especially if it's a fiction author, people want a story, and a story has to be about people, and it has to be about people that they can relate to. And facts and figures are great if you can work that into the story, but you have to keep in the back of your mind always that it's about the story, and it's about those people, and how they relate to one another, and how they relate to the events, and and how that makes them feel. And you have to be able to empathize with the character, and you have to be able to get into the mindset and the emotions of the character. And and if you lose focus of that, then the story starts to fall apart. So I would say that's definitely the best advice I can give is stay focused on the characters and what they're feeling and what they're thinking and how they interact with the other characters.
Okay. Is there anything else extremely important that you would like to add?
I would just say that there's an awful lot of stuff out there right now that's gives us a good reason to be prepared. We've got a lot of wild stuff going on in the world right now. We've got North Korea testing H bombs, which Dr. Peter Vincent Pry has stated that's most likely the super EMP that they're actually testing. The economy is on a really, really bad start to the year. And the folks in Washington, you don't depend on them because they are not going to be able to fix all of this. So you have to depend on yourself. I'd say a great piece of advice for younger folks that may not be in the job market yet, and you may be working with a very, very tight budget when it comes to preparedness. The dollar store's got a lot of cool stuff in it that you can use for preparedness, especially like bandages and things for medical supplies. You can get stuff that's storable food there. You can get the dollar store near me. They have the little solar lights that you can put in your yard, and you can put that out there and recharge it, and now you've got light for the rest of the night, and you can just recharge it in your yard the next day. And they've got those things for $1. Inside those are actually two little AA batteries, so it's actually a solar battery charger too. So you're getting two batteries and a charger and a flashlight for $1. So there are some deals to be had at the dollar store. You don't have to be super rich. You can earn a little extra money from cutting grass or doing whatever. There's always chores around that older folks don't want to do. And, if you've got a good, strong back, and a good work ethic, there's always going to be stuff to do that you can earn money. And the other thing that I would advise for younger folks, that are just getting started in prepping is skills. There's so many skills that you can learn on the internet, from building a fire to building a shelter to gardening to there's so much stuff. YouTube University, we call it. There's just a million things that you can learn there, and it costs you nothing to develop skills, and they don't weigh anything, and nobody can ever take those away from you. So if I were a young person just starting out in preparedness, that's what I would really, really be focused on, is skills, and in acquiring as much skills as I could from the internet, and practicing those skills and putting them to work. And like I said, they weigh nothing, and nobody can ever take them away from you.
Okay, how can viewers and the listeners support your podcast?
Just go and download it. You can share it with your friends on Twitter or Facebook or whatever social media you use. It's very, very helpful too. Also, if you listen on YouTube, to like it and share it and subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. That's a big help right there.
Okay, if that's all you would like to add, we can start wrapping up.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yep. Thank you.